Between sessions is where therapy doesn't end. It becomes a conversation. In this episode, we'll explore the quiet tension between building a life that should work and actually feeling at home in it. Through a nervous system lens, we talk about why structure, productivity, and expectations don't always align, especially for mothers and neurodivergent minds, and what it means to begin listening to yourself instead. So, welcome, first episode. So this is something that I have been wanting to do for a really long time, and for whatever reason, there have been some barriers, some pushback, some resistance, and so I've been doing a lot of thinking about this thought lately about what we should be doing and what actually feels good and our process in doing it. And so sometimes, the barriers that I may have been experiencing could have been related to how I should be setting up a podcast, all the normal ways to do it, quote unquote. However, in true form of myself and something that I continue to work at and embracing is I did this kind of spontaneously. So a lot of inspiration and spontaneity, if I'm saying that right, actually helps propel me and provide some movement. And so in the therapy world, we call this the backdoor approach, where sometimes instead of doing things in the logistical order, that in order to get some things done and create movement, we need to go through the back door. And so for a lot of neurodivergent people, that is finding what is creative in you and inspirational in you. And for myself, that's tying it back to, yeah, being a little spontaneous and just doing it. Knowing that it's not going to be perfect, but finding joy in that I'm actually doing it, that it's not sitting in the thoughts of what is to be. So perfect first episode for an intro is tying into that, is um, really diving into our shoulds, our life, how we can connect to our authenticity and find congruence between what we need to do, what we want to do, and how to do it. And so my hope for this podcast is that it will be relational, that it will feel like a natural conversation and be more of a culture and vibe that is for all those deep thinkers that just love to dive into their thoughts and conversate with people about anything that kind of comes up and making sense of it, meaning and symbolism and theories and concepts and anything in between. And so, welcome for the ride. So let's dive in. So there's lots of us out here, there, wherever we are, living lives that technically work. Some of us living lives that technically don't feel like they're working. And so some feel good and some don't feel good. Some, it may feel like a subtle little itch, craving, desire, reminder. Um, and for others, it may be a very blatant, in your face kind of feeling every day. And so I invite you, wherever you're at in that concept, to use this time to just take a pause and rest in this moment and be curious and see where it takes you. So this will kind of really focus on how we might be in more of the managing mode. And so that could look like on the outside, like things may look organized or productive or even successful. But internally, there might be this low level tension. something that just doesn't feel like it's quite clicking, something that there's a little bit of resistance. And I notice this a lot with the people I work with, but I also notice it in myself, especially as a mom. I've always been someone that thinks deeply and feels things really intensely. And sometimes when you are a thinker and a feeler, those things combined just can add a little bit of complexity to being mindfully present, because you tend to cognitively make meaning of your experience and awareness. So in essence, we can build a life that makes sense on paper, but our nervous system is still like, something is not right. And so I think that's the part that gets misunderstood. Because if we're taught that something isn't working, then we have this notion that we should try harder or be more consistent or be more disciplined. There's a lot of shoulds that come up. Like, I should be able to do this or I should be happy. But what if that's not actually the issue? What if the life that you've built just isn't aligned with how your system works? Like your actual rhythms, your capacity, your need for flexibility or space or variation. And so instead of adjusting the structure, we try to adjust ourselves. And that's where I see people start to feel stuck or burnt out or like they're constantly behind. And then there's this quiet question underneath it all is why does this feel harder for me than it should? And this is a huge, huge common occurrence for neurodivergent people. So the notion of why does this feel so hard? And so the answer is not that you're doing something wrong. It's that perhaps you've never been given permission to build something that actually fits you. So it kind of goes hand in hand with the old tale of the American dream, right? And putting in the hard work. And while, yes, hard work is needed, I think as time goes on, we're kind of seeing just how creativity and new ideas are creating new jobs and new schedules and new rhythms and new ways that we relate to ourselves and to others. And so if we can remain open and curious with that, then you can begin building for yourself. So especially as a neurodivergent parent, you're holding a lot. Most likely you have neurodivergent kids, so then you have a neurodivergent household. And a term that I personally have used as my mantra is embrace the chaos. Because at times, yes, it is chaos. At times, internally, you feel chaotic. So if your nervous system is just more sensitive to pressure or overwhelm, then you have learned that you can't just force yourself into a system that wasn't built for you. And so I've been thinking about this question and love talking to others about this question of what do I want to be when I grow up? But not in the way we usually think about it. Not as a job, which sometimes, like, yes, it is a job, but as a way of living. Like some questions would be, what kind of pace actually feels sustainable for me? What kind of structure supports me instead of constrains me? What kind of days feel like mine, right? A lot of times we are living in a constant state of doing. And how can we take a step back out of our robot automation mode and find a way to get our paintbrushes out and create and reflect on how do we show up? How can we be grateful for this day that we have? And instead of just automatically doing, we intentionally receive each opportunity and not trying to keep up with a version of life that doesn't actually match us. because over time that creates a sense of disconnection. And that is the shift. Disconnection from ourselves, from people around us, from the world, from the idea of something bigger and greater, a conscious creator that we are connected to. And so when we feel that disconnect, what if we started building from the inside out, from the nervous system first, from capacity first, from interest instead of obligation, and not in a way that ignores responsibility, but in a way that actually makes it sustainable. So, something in the neurodivergent, affirming philosophical lens is that we would call this pacing, a way where you're intentionally monitoring what is inside and what you have to give and build and provide and do so that you feel balanced, so that you are working with yourself, not against yourself. Because when something feels aligned, you don't have to force it as much. There's more ease, more clarity, more room to breathe. And with the backdoor approach, tying that in, is that when we free that space up, it actually helps propel us into being productive. When we are aligned and working with our nervous system, our interest-based system, finding ways to soothe our sensory system, finding ways to expand our capabilities, we then have the capacity to be productive, to get our responsibilities done, to push through what we need to get done while doing things that still feel nourishing in a rhythmic way of how we operate and feels more balanced. And this isn't something that you figure out at once. It's also something that you may cognitively know. However, you have to build the felt sense up through experiences. So it's something that you come back to over and over again, adjusting, relearning, letting yourself change, getting curious with yourself, finding moments where when we get the feelings, the little messengers of feelings that come up throughout our day, that we don't allow them to just control. They're not there to take over, but they're there to be like little gauges on a car dashboard saying, hey, think you need to pump up your tires. You need a little bit more gas. Hey, you need an oil change, right? But we're still the whole car. We still have lots of parts to ourselves. There's still ways to maintain ourselves, to practice care so that we're running well, we're able to get to where we need. And pacing isn't about not getting to where you need to go, but it's more about planning your trip, saying, "Hey, I know my car and I know this trip and the type of road and the weather, and what are some things that I need to either prepare beforehand or take with me along the way? Do I need to make stops?" And so that's the difference with adjusting and relearning to your nervous system, is that you're not just going to force or push through, but you're going to create your day and what life feels good for you in a way that takes in all of the data, in a way that incorporates everything as information that allows things to coexist. And so maybe this week to get started, instead of asking what you should be doing, because we all have so much that we should be doing, just notice what feels heavy, what feels easy, what feels like it fits you, and also what capacity do you have? Out of all of your to-do list, all of the things that you want to get done or your responsibilities, are there certain things on your plate today that feel more energizing, that maybe could help you activate yourself to getting more things done? So, a little side note is that's kind of what I did with this podcast is I had so many things that I had to do on my to-do list. And in thinking about my business and lifestyle and like what feels good and what feels like pressure demand, I'm using this podcast today, right now, right here, as a backdoor approach, as a way to get unstuck, a way to propel myself, activate myself into doing some other things that I need to get done. So sometimes to other people, this may look a little bit sideways or backwards as a backdoor approach, right? But if at the end of the day, I was able to accomplish everything that I would have accomplished, or maybe even more actually, if I did just push through, because I know that myself, I lead through feeling inspired and motivated, that creative desire to do something that's meaningful, ideas, concepts, all that good stuff. So I invite you to do that for yourself. Lay out all the things that maybe you need to get done or that you'd like to do. And ask yourself, where would I like to start? Find your little moments of maybe things that you have to do, like the dishes. Like, are there ways that you can bring in gratitude and mindfulness? And I know that we say those words so much and that they have turned into like such buzzwords, but in the true essence of being grateful, grateful that you have dishes to clean, grateful that you have a family or children or yourself to nourish. And maybe while you're doing those dishes, do something that's nourishing to you, like listening to a podcast or turning on music or inviting someone to join you to maybe talk or split up the roles, finding a way to connect. And so those are little examples of how we align our life with what feels good. So it's not about skipping out on our responsibility, but it's about connecting and engaging with what is and how to nourish ourselves so that we can be truly present and grateful in the moment to give to ourselves, to give to others, to create and get out of survival. So that is your start here moment. Is what are some opportunities in your day that maybe you can start off with of how to align with your rhythm, your pacing, your balance, and just start there. Well, this is Between Sessions. I hope you enjoyed the first session or episode, and I will meet you back here next time. Of course, if there's any topics that you'd like to kind of dive into, feel free to reach out and send them my way. Thanks so much.